Thank you all for joining us tonight and welcome to the Six Colleges Fly-In Program webinar. My name is Winnie Lotto and I am the Senior College Success Manager with College Greenlight, and I am thrilled to be moderating this event tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to let you know about a couple of things. So you are more than welcome to use closed captioning. That is an option for you. In addition to that, I know some of you are interested in asking questions, and we encourage you to ask questions. So feel free to use the question and answer functionality within our Zoom platform. And I also want to note that some of you may have interacted with our six colleges in a previous setting, whether it's that you've attended another webinar with them, or you've gone to an information session, or you've interviewed. We welcome you back. For those of you who are new, this is an opportunity, obviously, for you to interact with these colleges, but also if you are interested in learning more about their institutions, what they have to offer, their programming, you should check out the Six Colleges website. I have gone to the website and it is incredible, filled with so much information. But then it's also really great that you get to meet other members of their offices as they tell you about their programs and what separates them or identifies them as institutions and liberal arts colleges. So thank you all for being here. And today's focus is primarily in fly-in programs. So if you do have those questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A to ask those questions. And before we get started, I will have each and every single one of our colleges briefly introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to say good evening to you because I am coming to you from the eastern part of the United States here on Nonotuck land in Western Massachusetts. My name is Mandy. I use she and her pronouns, and I am an Associate Dean of Admission at Amherst College. And I'm also the coordinator for diversity outreach efforts. And I'm really excited to chat with you tonight.
Perfect. Hi, I am also on the East Coast. My name is Jackie. I use she, her pronouns, and I am coming to you representing Bowdoin College as a Senior Assistant Dean of Admissions who oversees the fly-in programs here at Bowdoin. So we're really excited to spend some time talking to you about our individual institutions and the benefits of fly-ins.
Hi, everyone. My name is Remy. I use she, her pronouns. I work at Carleton College. I'm going to go ahead and say good day. Regret not wearing the top hat, but still good day to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited to chat with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colby Stallings. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the Senior Assistant Dean of Admissions at Pomona College. I am the, I think, only West Coaster here, so late afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yoquin Jo. I use she, her pronouns. I am an assistant dean of admissions at Swarthmore College, which is right outside the city of Philadelphia on the East Coast. So welcome again to you all, and also props to you all for doing this on a Thursday. I know many of you have had a long day of school, of work, you know, whichever coast you're on, at which part of the country you're tuning in from. So again, you know, we appreciate you being here tonight.
Hi, everybody. To round it out with the last East Coaster, my name is Courtney Oben, and I am an admission counselor with Williams College over here in the Berkshires, Williamstown. We're located on Mohican land, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you this afternoon, this night, this evening, this morning, wherever you are in the world. I'll say hello one more time and pass it back to you, Winnie.
Thanks, Courtney. I'm so excited to have each of our admissions leaders tell you about fly-in programs. Before we do that, I want to quickly let you know about College Greenlight. So College Greenlight has been a leading college admissions advocacy network in which we support first generation and underrepresented students who are on the path to and through college. And how we achieve this is that we work collectively with partners, and college partners like our six colleges are great members of our community. In addition to that, we work with over 1,600 community-based organizations nationally, primarily to support you students who are mostly here to think about the information gaps or opportunity gaps as you are interacting with your experiences or preparing for the college experience, applying, being a student on these campuses, etc. And as you see on this slide, this is our website, which is very much a robust website, but allows for you to engage, whether if you're thinking about scholarships, if you are interested in seeing articles about what it might be like to be an underrepresented student at highly selective institutions, or if you're a counselor chiming in, we have opportunities for you to engage with our college partners, whether it is finding opportunities to engage in a webinar. It's a great way for us to bring community together. One of the things that I really appreciate about College Greenlight is that we really focus on bringing in that information collectively. So for example, we put together lists. And as you see on this slide, we have the Fly-In and Diversity Program list that we publish every single year. So this is a list where we bring together nationally known and very esteemed colleges as well. They put together a fly-in list to help you understand which colleges are offering fly-in programs, when they're offered, who they are catered to, how you apply, and when they're offered within the year. And so this is a great tool for you as a student or a counselor to be able to interact with. And so we are so happy to be in this space with our 6 colleges, because today they're going to tell you about fly-in programs. What does it mean to have a fly-in program? Who are they designed for? And how can you apply? So I'm going to pass it over to our first college.
Thank you. So we are going to spend a lot of time talking about our fly-in programs. What even is a fly-in program? When we say fly-in, what are we talking about? But before we do that, we want to talk about who we are as these 6 unique colleges and why are we talking about these programs together. I think that it's really important for you all to know that we as college admission officers, we know that this whole college search process is really scary and it's really hard and it's really confusing and there's a lot of things to learn and discover about what different colleges offer. And even though we are 6 really unique schools with lots of really individual offerings, we have a lot in common. And so we want to make it a little bit easier for you by kind of talking about the things that we do have in common with each other and allow you to do a little bit more research on your own to figure out what differentiates our colleges from each other. But first, we are all small colleges. We range in size from about 1,500 to about 2,200, which may be smaller than your high school even. We really value the size of our campuses because of the fact that it really centers the relationships that you build when you're on a campus of our size. You get to build close-knit relationships, not just with your peers, but also with your teachers, who we'll refer to as your professors or your faculty members. They really care deeply about you and your success. And you really walk through our campuses as a valued member of our community and not just kind of a number that's kind of going through the processes with us. We're also residential, which means that everyone lives on campus. When you bring together a diverse group of students, we know that you learn from each other's experiences, backgrounds, and identities, not just inside the classroom, but outside the classroom as well. And so a lot of that happens in your residence halls or when you're going to sporting events to support your classmates and peers. And all of that happens in the context of living in the same space that you're learning. We're also all liberal arts colleges. The term liberal arts can be really confusing, and I hope that as you go along your college search process, you become familiar with this term. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the word liberal and nothing to do with the word arts. But the way I like to think about liberal arts is that if you're the kind of student and person that doesn't really like to be put in a box, that doesn't really like to be referred to as, you know, the science person or the arts person, because you really like to do a lot of different things, then liberal arts might be a good fit for you. We're really places that encourage you to nurture all of your various interests and not just hone in on that one very specific thing. Another really key thing about all 6 of these institutions is that we're committed to making sure that your college education is as affordable as possible. So we're all going to meet your demonstrated financial need, and we're going to have really amazing resources when you get to campus, like funded internship opportunities and research opportunities. And if you're coming to join us in places like the Northeast, We're gonna have funding for you to get winter clothing and to be able to purchase your books without worrying about it. So we want to make sure that your education is affordable. And with that said, if you're exploring the QuestBridge program, which is a way to apply to college through one particular application platform, we are all QuestBridge partners. So you can apply to all of our institutions using that QuestBridge platform as well, if that's something that you're exploring.
Perfect. Thank you, Mandy. So what is a fly-in program? Thank you all for spending some time talking to us about the potentials for what fly-in programs are and what's included and why students will want to take part in them. So fly-in programs are basically what they sound like. They are experiences that all of us fund fully, be it a plane ticket, a bus ticket, a train ticket, to come to our campuses and take a look at whether or not we can be the right school for you. So these flying programs, all of us have applications that we'll talk about later on in this presentation, but you'll basically submit some information about yourself, and then you'll come to our college campuses, we'll buy your plane ticket, and then we'll walk you through what to do if you're checking in to a flight for the first time, which is definitely a thing I've done before. And then you'll come to our campuses and spend anywhere between 1 and 3 days exploring our classes, talking to students. For many of you, you'll be hosted by current students, you'll be able to talk to professors, and you'll see what life could really be like instead of just having to imagine it through a website. So the purpose of these really is to get to know us just as much as we get to know you. Some of us will offer conversations with admissions officers during this time. You can meet with our student aid offices during this time. You can talk to coaches and professors and different people that make up our campus community to figure out whether or not sort of the feel of our college campus is going to be the right one for you. There's a lot of conversations in College Choice about how visits really help students make that choice. And so all of us run these fly-in programs every single fall to make sure that students have the opportunity to determine for themselves whether or not these schools are somewhere that they could see themselves spending the next 4 years. And Remy's going to jump in and talk about how to make the most of your limited time on campus.
Yeah, so I've got 5 or 6 tips for you, right? Knowing that your experience, the experience for each of you is going to be really different. So my first tip is that you get ahead at home prior to the fly-in program, whether it's an in-person program or a virtual program. Keep in mind, some of you will be doing multiple programs, right? We talk to students every year who sort of like run the circuit, right? And they will attend like 5 or 6 or more fly-in programs. A lot of these programs are happening on weekdays, which means you're missing school, right? You're still expected to be a student and graduate on time to attend our colleges, right? So as much as we want you to love the program, we don't want it to come at the cost of you continuing to do well in your courses, right? Or you continuing to take care of what you need to at home or at your job, right? So before the program, make sure you plan ahead. Get ahead on your homework, right? If you can take a quiz or a test early, your teachers are going to love you. If you say, Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Jefferson, whatever, can I please take this quiz on Wednesday? I'm leaving on Thursday for a college program, right? Rather than expecting that to be, put off a few days for you when you return. Make sure you talk to your bosses at work as well, right? They're not going to love you being gone 18 different days for these fly-in programs. So make sure you take care of all of that stuff in advance. Second thing, I really encourage you do the preparation that colleges are asking you to do. I know the last thing that anybody wants is more homework, but some of these programs are going to ask you, hey, do a little bit of reading. Hey, check out our website. Hey, fill out this get to know you sheet, right? We try not to make it super extensive, but it can be really helpful for us as we're planning your experience. It can also make your time on campus or virtually through these programs more worthwhile, right? If you're having a discussion with a dean or a director or someone in an admissions office about your college essay and you haven't started it, you haven't done the prep work, you're probably not going to get as much out of that session. And keep in mind, we're doing these for you. We want you to take some tangible things away when you leave our programs. Third tip, if it is an in-person program, I really encourage you, bring homework with you. As much as you can get ahead, that's great, but there will be downtime. Keep in mind, we are wrangling dozens, if not hundreds of students at airports. there's going to be a little bit of time where you're sitting, right? Not to mention the time that you have on the flight. So if you're not someone who is sleeping, which is fine too, but if you are like Remy and you're wide awake on a flight, make use of that time, right? Get some of your homework done so that you're not coming back from these fly-in programs feeling like you've fallen behind on your homework. If you are attending an in-person program, I encourage you to sort of make a list of things you'd like to do in advance. And it doesn't have to be an exhaustive list, because sometimes there are going to be things you don't even know about until you get there, right? But for example, if you're someone who's maybe interested in college athletics, maybe reach out ahead of time, whether it's to a coach or to the person running the program, right? To say, hey, Jackie, I'm really excited to come to Bowdoin. I'm thinking about playing basketball. Would it be possible for me to connect with a coach, right? And sometimes we can do that on the fly, but college schedules sometimes just don't mesh well, right? Like our coaches are doing different things, the admissions office is doing different things, professors are super busy, students are busy. If you can give us any sort of heads up, it helps us be able to get you in touch with the folks you're most excited to meet while you're on campus. Same with music, theater, whatever things you're excited about. If you let us know in advance and do some of that prep work, we can do our best to put you in touch with those folks when you come to campus. My fifth tip for you would be, especially for those of you who are a bit more shy, right, or more introverted, push yourself to be involved. And I say this as someone who was pretty introverted and pretty shy and very much a wallflower during the fly-in programs I did as a high school senior. And it's okay to be introverted and it's okay to be shy, but we want you to really come and, again, take away as much as you can from these programs, right? I spent some Friday nights like in a dorm room, right? Because I was too nervous to talk to the people around me. I was too nervous to talk to my student host. I was too nervous to talk to the other prospective students, right? So if you're one of those people too, push yourself, right? If you see a group of prospective students, right, going out to the snack bar to get smoothies, right? Or they're going to take a walk downtown, or they're going to go catch the volleyball match, push yourself, right? To say, hey, can I go with you? Right? Or if your student host is headed off to her music concert, say, hey, can I go with you? Right? You're going to thank yourself for really trying to get as involved as possible during the trip. Finally, my last tip for you, if you're doing a virtual program, please don't try to multitask. Please don't try to virtually attend some of these sessions while you're also in virtual or in-person high school. We want you to come and fully invest. We're going to hit you with a lot of really relevant, we hope, knowledge and information, not just about our colleges, but about the application process broadly, right? And we want you to be fully engaged, right? So if you're going to do one of these programs, carve out the time, commit the full 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is, to really engaging with us. You'll be really happy that you did once it's done.
All right, so who's eligible for our fly-in programs? We all have slight differences in our selection process of choosing students that are accepted to our programs, but generally speaking, any student that is a rising senior and is interested in our schools or wants to learn more about our institutions should apply. That being said, most fly-in programs are hoping to get rising seniors that come from underrepresented backgrounds or identities, and sometimes that are domestic students that are residing in the US. So this can include students that are low income or may not have the ability to afford a trip to our campuses. First generation, meaning students who are the first in their family to attend college. Students that come from underrepresented ethnic or racial backgrounds. So students that identify as African American, Hispanic or Latinx American, Native American, API, Asian Pacific Islander American, students that are biracial, right? Students that are undocumented or documented. Other students that might have consideration are students from rural areas, students that identify as queer, international students residing in the US, or any other underrepresented identity. For our specific eligibility requirements, please refer to our websites. So how do you stand out across the applications that we get in our fly-in application process? You understand all students are eligible, right? But we may be looking for students that come from underserved backgrounds or may have unique stories or identities. We'll go through the application process and the application pieces on the next slide, but you'll have opportunities to submit strong pieces of your writing, and you'll be allowed to tell us about yourself. You'll be able to tell us about your story and what maybe makes you unique to yourself, right? Or what your background is. So After all that, right, tell us what your authentic story is. As long as you're coming through authentic in your application and your essays, which could be long or short essays, that will help you stand out in our process.
All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about what flying programs are all about, what you can get from it, right? Whether it's in person or virtual, some of you might be, okay, like I want to look into this, right? I want to look into applying. And I see that some of you have asked questions like, how many programs can I apply to, right? Doesn't matter. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the application process. And it's great that you all might be thinking about flying programs because this is also good practice later on for you to actually apply to colleges for admission, right? So we'll talk about what that process looks like. So for all of our flying programs, we do have an application process, right? We are selective in thinking about the students we want to invite to our flying programs. And the first piece, you do want to check all of our app deadlines, right? We are different in the time, the program time as well as the application timeline. So we have different open dates for applications. Some of our applications are actually currently open and some will open later in the summer. So keep in mind as you navigate through this, and it's helpful to keep notes, to keep a spreadsheet, right? If you're looking at multiple flying programs. And remember to check our websites for all the materials, all the requirements. So the most of us require an application form, which lives on our website. You can easily access that. And if you forget all of our wonderful names for our flying programs, which will sound really fun, you can just Google Bowdoin flying program, right? And it'll lead you to whatever that program is. So you don't have to remember the names, which we'll get to see in a little bit. But the website is really where you'll find all that information. Obviously, you can email us with any questions you have, but what most of us will require an application form, which you can fill out online, as well as a number of supplementary materials, which depend if you're looking at individual programs, they might be asking for different things. So we look for you to submit the application form as well as those materials by the deadline, right? It's very important that you do these things by the application deadline. And I'll also put in a note that some of our deadlines are in the middle of summer, right? And you'll see that some of our programs might require that you submit a transcript. Actually, all of us do, end of 11th grade transcript, right? So all the way between 9th grade and the end of your junior year. We want those grades from you. So you might want to ask your teacher for that right now, right? Before they go on summer break, because it might be harder to reach them over the summer. Some of us might also require recommendation letters from your teachers or from your counselor. It's also much easier on your end and for them as well to put in that word early, right? So again, all of this is good practice to keep later on as you move into your college search and the admissions applications process. So keep all of this in mind. You submit all the materials by the deadline and we will send decisions to you via the format that we told you about on the website, either via email, via our applicant portal, and then we'll communicate with you about the next steps, whether it's an in-person visit, the things to prepare, right? The things that you want to think about ahead of the program, or if it's a virtual program, we'll tell you about the technology, we'll tell you about ways to engage with us, right, throughout the duration of the virtual program. But those are the general bigger pieces, but then again, always keep in mind that each program is different in its own way, right? So we'll have different requirements or smaller things, and definitely keep in mind and mark those days on your calendars, right? If you're interested in multiple programs, keep those in mind. And I will pass it over to my colleague, Courtney, who will talk about the commonalities and also the differences amongst our applications.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about some of the individual requirements we have. So I'm just going to stamp those before we talk about some of the differences between the apps. So as you're kind of preparing your applications, you're going to need to sit down and think about your own demographic information, but also that of your parents. You're going to need their job information. For some of us, you may need their income information, just like how much they make in a year, just so we can get a sense of your income as we kind of evaluate. Because our programs are geared towards low income students, we do want to make sure that we're getting students who wouldn't be able to afford an opportunity to travel to campus without being admitted to one of our flying programs. And you also know you're going to need a transcript of some sort, whether you're able to submit that at the time you submit your application, or you'll need to update us with a transcript via email afterwards. You can do that too. We know that a lot of you guys are kind of in the air with COVID still, and your transcripts your semester transcripts are just not available for some of the deadlines. So definitely be sure to contact us with an email update if you are not able to submit your final junior year transcript with your application. And then, you're going to need some kind of writing, but here's where we differ a little bit. So some of us will request a writing sample, or some of us may ask you to write something new, a short little piece that we have an individual prompt for, or we can ask you for a sample of an essay that you've written either this year or in your 10th grade year. And then the last thing that we may ask for is a little bit of a mini activity list. It's not going to be the full Monty you'll do for your college application in the fall, where you'd probably list out as many activities as you wish, listing out all of the things that you've engaged with that have been important to you. For your diversity fly-in applications, we may be asking for 2 or 3 key activities that have really moved you, and a little bit of a summary about why those things are important to you, just so we can get another sense of who you are outside of the classroom. Because we do love to see that you all are engaging outside of academics, and that you are going to get to campus and be able to have fun and explore and just engage with our communities in ways that are really meaningful and beneficial to you all. And so with that, I will pass it back to Winnie, I believe.
Yes. So now I believe the colleges are going to tell you a little bit about their individual programs.
Yeah, as usual, Amherst is first up. It's wonderful to have your college start with the letter A. And I think that, we spent a lot of time talking about some of the really amazing things that you can do at a fly-in program, why you might want to apply. And, we saw in the chat lots of questions about how long are these programs? When should I apply by? What am I going to be able to do with my downtime? Will this be virtual or in person? And that's where there's going to be lots of individual differences between our 6 colleges. So we wanted to take some time for each of us individually to really delve in to some of those specific things that are going to be different from school to school. Amherst College's fly-in program is called Access to Amherst, and we lovingly refer to it as A2A. We are planning to have our A2A program virtually this year. So, we want to ensure the safety of our participants and our current Amherst College students. We had a really great virtual program last year, and we're confident that we can give you a lot of the really great information through the virtual space. I noted here that our dates are tentative at this point for October 4th through 8th. That sounds like a really long time, and it is. We planned it for that long because we do about 1.5 to 2 hour long time blocks on each of those days. So really planning around your time zones to put you in a group with others with like time zones so that you can get together at times that are convenient for you and still get really great experiences and information. We have another program that we refer to as EONS, which is the Early Opportunity for Native Students. So for any students who are applying to our Access to Amherst program who identify as Native or Indigenous, we have an extra day to get introduced to our vibrant Native and Indigenous community on campus. And that's just another, again, extra about hour and a half. That's the day before the Access to Amherst program starts. Our application deadline is September 1st. I know there was a question in the chat. If I apply earlier, will I have a better likelihood of being admitted? At Amherst, we are going to review the applications after September 1st. So we won't actually even see if you applied super early. So that won't advantage you in the Amherst College process. And in terms of our application components, you heard a lot about those components that all of us are going to require. One thing that I do think is important to talk about here is that at Amherst, we are going to require a short essay as well as a letter of recommendation. This letter can come from any adult in your life who can talk about some of your personal qualities, or maybe if it's a teacher, the way that you perform in the classroom, but really just a person in your life who can give us a little bit more context about who you are. If it is prohibitive for you to find an adult in your life to write a letter of recommendation, it's no problem. just email that email address that you see, and we will definitely waive that requirement. But it is something that we would love to see if it's possible for you. We also are going to require that transcript for 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. I know that it is sometimes hard to get a hold of your second semester 11th grade grades. And if it's not possible for you, you can submit your report cards or screenshots of whatever you're getting for your grade reports. But we do need to have those grades through the end of 11th grade in order for us to evaluate your access to Amherst application. Again, senior schedule, we know that you may not have your final senior classes yet, or your high school won't determine those until the fall, but just take your best guess of the classes that you're going to be taking in your senior year. Our application is live now. We have applications already. And if you would like to apply, you can visit our website. Another question that came in the chat that I do just want to address is that because our program is virtual, we are open to international students living outside the United States. So any non-US citizen, whether you're living in the United States or outside the United States, is eligible to apply and potentially attend the Access to Amherst program. So that's A2A and our EON's early opportunity for Native students. And I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
Second in the alphabet. Thank you, Mandy. So welcome to a tiny slice of what Explore Bowdoin will be like. We are running 2 Explore Bowdoins this year. They're usually both in person, but we've actually switched one to virtual with the understanding that some of you might not be able to travel yet. So Explore Bowdoin 1 will be taking place from September 30th through October 2nd, with programming that starts each evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Explore Bowdoin 2 will be in person from October 14th to 16th, as you can see. The application deadline for both is September 8th. What we'll ask you to do on the application, and you'll see right when you open it up, we'll ask you what your program preference is, and then we'll ask you if you want to be considered for both or just for one. One important caveat is that for all students who will be taking part in Explore Bowdoin 2, we will require vaccination against COVID-19 if you are coming to campus, which means that you will either have to have both of your shots done by October 1st, or if you're just getting the one shot Johnson & Johnson, October 1st also. Isn't it great that we get to talk about this stuff all the time now? So similarly to Mandy, applying early does not actually change your application status at all. So September 8th is our deadline, and then you'll be, informed within 2 weeks which program you will be attending. Similar to the application components, we similarly do need a transcript along with various pieces of personal information, senior schedule, and all of those things that we talked about. And then specific to Bowdoin, we will ask you for a graded piece of writing from 10th or 11th grade. Hopefully this is pretty easy for you to be able to scoop up from one of your classes. You can submit the screenshot of the grade and then just submit the piece of writing that it was associated with. And that will just allow us to see a little bit of what your schoolwork has looked like. And then we do have one short answer question. You have 4 choices. You'll see in the application, they're pretty straightforward. And like all of our peers, we are test optional for this. We anticipate that the application will take between 1 and 2 hours, so it shouldn't be too much of your time. And then you'll find out sometime in September if you'll be coming to Bowdoin, either virtually or in person. The other thing is that for students who do come on our virtual program because they're unable to travel, if you're admitted to Bowdoin for spring, if you're admitted to Bowdoin to attend for admission, we will sponsor your travel to come out and see us if you haven't already seen us in person. So more information on our website. The virtual and in-person programs both are really great, having now obviously run both. At both of them, we'll talk a lot about application tips. You'll meet professors, you'll meet current students. You'll have ways to talk about your college application as well as yourself and try to figure out if Bowdoin is a good fit for you. We also have added components. We do offer interviews that are specific to Explore Bowdoin attendees, both virtually and in person. And then we have individual appointments set up with our student aid office for anybody who wants to have a conversation about student aid during their time visiting Bowdoin, either from your living room, where we'll send you a box of Bowdoin swag so that you don't feel left out, or in person, you can walk right over to our student aid office and have that conversation. Obviously, more information on our website, but I will hand it off to my colleague from Carleton.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, so a lot of this is going to sound repetitive, right? Particularly when it comes to application components. Dates are listed here, right? I considered putting tentative here. I'm not going to. I'm going to commit to it right now. This is happening. It's happening in person. Fingers crossed that everything continues to go well with us battling COVID in this country. You will have about a month to apply for TOC if you want to, once the application opens. In terms of strict requirements, we really just need a transcript and a senior schedule. And then the application itself is going to ask you to do a little bit of writing. We try to make it pretty flexible. If you want to submit test scores of any kind, you can. If you want to submit a resume, you certainly can. If you want to submit more writing samples, you certainly can. But what's actually required is fairly minimal. Though I would encourage you to take a little bit of time with the writing piece. It's the best way we get to know you in your words, rather than just through the numbers and letters that show up on transcripts, right? They can sometimes feel a little bit sterile, right? When we really want to get to know the person behind the application. The program itself is 3 days. It intentionally covers a Friday and a Friday night, right? We want you to see what classes are like. We also want you to see what social life is like. So we make sure to have this overlap with a weekend. You would have the opportunity to attend classes, interact with professors, with students, to partake in different admissions offerings. That being said, we really try to limit the structure of the program itself. As much as I would love to sit you down in a conference room and talk to you for 18 straight hours about like, yay, Carleton, our hope is that you can just come and really get a sense of Carleton. Just be a Carleton student, right, for 48 to 72 hours, right? So for the most part, I'm going to make sure you're eating food, right, that you're checking in with your parents, that you're showing up to where you need to be. But a lot of the time it's okay, be safe, I will see you in the morning. We're going to kind of let you build a day that works best for you. In terms of who is eligible, we use the term underrepresented very intentionally and very broadly. If you are someone who identifies as BIPOC, you are certainly eligible. If you are a member of the LGBTQIA+ community, you are certainly eligible. First gen, low income, you come from a rural area, right? Maybe you come from a state that's not even super represented on our campus. We try to be very broad, right? So as long as you can kind of talk to us about who you are and what that underrepresented identity looks like for you, we certainly do encourage you to apply. So if you have additional questions, feel free to get in touch with us anytime. I'm going to turn it over to Colby, talk about Pomona.
Thanks, Remy. Hi, everyone. So for Pomona, our fly-in program is called POP. This year is still virtual perspectives on Pomona. So our program will be virtually because, like Amherst, we had an amazing virtual program last year, and we believe we can continue that same program and give you all of the benefits of going to seeing our campus, but at a virtual way instead. We do have a 2-day half-day program. So you do have to attend both Saturday, September 25th and October 2nd. That's about a 4-hour program, and we build in lots of breaks in there. In our program, we'll have a lot of opportunities for you to see a live tour, a lot of the stuff that you'll have if it was in person, a lot of bonding opportunities. Last year, we sent all the virtual students little mugs with cake in it, cake in them, or brownies, so that we had like a little meditation and thing that way. Our application is live already, and like the other schools that have mentioned it, we read everything after the application deadline, so it won't help you if you apply early or not, but if you do want to apply, our application is live on our website. Our application components are your end of junior year transcript as well. We do have 3 short essays that you'll have to fill out, so there's not a writing piece that you've already done that you can submit. We have one short essay that's 250 to 300 words. And then we have 2 shorter essays, one that's 100 to 150 words, and the other 150 to 200. So 3 pretty small essays. We're really looking to see, as I mentioned, about what we've talked about, right? Your writing ability and you being able to articulate your lived experience and what makes you unique. That being said, if you're really looking forward to an in-person opportunity, students that are admitted to the POP program and then are later admitted to Pomona will fly you out in the spring semester for in-person campus visits during our admitted student programs in April. That's everything about POP, so I'll hand it over to Swarthmore.
All right, thank you. So a little bit about our flying program, which is called Discover Swarthmore. We also call it DS or Disco SWAT. I like Disco SWAT a little better. So program days are also here. They are also tentative, very much tentative. We are finalizing our plans of the delivery format of this year's program. So we are going to decide whether it's going to be fully virtual or it has an in-person component. So the virtual program would be September 19th to 23rd. Which is pretty long again, right? But we're trying to, not give you a lot of Zoom fatigue. We're trying to space things out, but still create those moments for you to make connections with professors, with current students, with campus community, student groups, right? Really get to talk to alumni, right? To hear from different members of the community. And if we were to have an in-person component of the program, it would be one of these 3 days. And I know that's not super helpful, but we will try to communicate within the next few weeks to prospective applicants as well as current applicants about whether we'll end up having an in-person component at all. So the application deadline, it is currently open, the application, and the deadline will be July 7th. And that deadline is for the application itself, right? Which includes the personal information, academic information, as well as choosing 1 out of 2 short essay prompts about 250 words, and you'll get to talk about who you are, what's important to you, but also you can choose to talk about your community, what that means to you, and how that has shaped you as a person. And we also require an end of junior year transcript, and this has a different deadline. We extend that for a week, so you have a little bit more time to work on that. But I suggest that try talking to your counselors or teachers right now to get a hold of your transcript, and we accept any format, right? It can be official, unofficial, screenshot, any format that tells us your grades between now and 9th grade. And I'll talk about just some perks for students who are nominated, who are applicants, right, who end up attending one of our flying programs. So we do have a nomination process. So counselors can nominate their students to be applicants for Discover Swarthmore. You do not have to be nominated to apply, right? Anyone can find the application and apply to our program. But if you're nominated by your counselors or your teachers, you get a $60 application fee waiver if you choose to apply to Swarthmore later on for admission. And if you apply to Discover Swarthmore, all of the applicants, you also receive that fee waiver. And in addition, you get to use the short essay that you used for Discover Swarthmore application to replace your Swarthmore application for admission later on in the winter or in the fall. So any questions that you have, right, feel free to email us. It's pretty straightforward, discover@swat.edu or discover.swat.edu. And one thing to know is that participants in our Discover Swarthmore program, so if you end up coming to our virtual or in-person programs, you will be invited to the spring admitted students fly-in as well after you're admitted to Swarthmore, which is called Swatlight, and we'll also cover all of your travel fees, housing, everything. We will pay for everything. So, and that includes, transfers between airports and train stations, as well as bus stations as well. So I will pass it on to Williams to finish us up.
Thank you, you can. And so now let's talk a little bit about windows on Williams. And so we're back here in the Purple Valley over here in the Berkshires, and we're so excited to be offering 2 in-person and 1 virtual WOW this fall. So our in-person programs will be September 23rd to 25th, and then October 14th to 16th. And then our virtual WOW will be October 7th to 9th. And so we definitely wanted to make sure we had some different options so that students who are less comfortable being on campus or traveling would be able to experience a virtual program as we did last fall. And so there are a little bit of some slight differences between the virtual program and the in-person program, largely because they have to be a little bit different, right? And so for the in-person program, students this fall will be staying on the or staying at the Williams Inn on campus, a newly renovated, gorgeous hotel, kind of barn style. And so we've rented out about 15 or so different rooms so that we have a really gorgeous space for all of our WOW students. And next year we'll be able to go back to having student hosts, but this year we're going to do that a little bit differently and have kind of student chaperones instead. And so you'll be kind of engaging with a student chaperone for those 3 days when you're on campus. They'll be supporting you as you're kind of going around campus, taking classes for the weekend, meeting with professors, doing info sessions, talking to financial aid. You'll have a chance as well to explore the Berkshires, explore Williamstown a little bit, and really be an EAF for the weekend. We're called EAFs, Purple Cows. Lots of great things about the Berkshires. We have an ice cream shop called Lickety Split. We have an ice cream flavor called Purple Cow. It's really amazing. You'll have an awesome, awesome time. The virtual program does look a little bit different. So you won't be able to have kind of faculty dinners as we do for the in-person program, but you'll have faculty meetings. You'll have meetings via Zoom with admission officers and financial aid officers as well. You'll be able to connect with student groups, both in the virtual program and the in-person program. And as has been mentioned for all of the other schools as well, you're just kind of going to be a Williams student for the weekend and really get a sense of whether or not you see yourself in this space as a college student. And so we have 2 different application deadlines. Our first round will end July 10th and our second round will end August 10th. And there really is no preference for us whether you want to apply for the first or second deadline. And applying for the second deadline isn't going to be much more competitive than applying for the first one. So really just take your time. If you don't want to apply right now, you absolutely don't have to. And then just talk a little bit about the specific application components. We've talked a lot about this in the first portion of the presentation, but I'm just going to kind of stamp some few things that are specific to Williams. So we ask for a graded writing sample from this year. I get a lot of emails from students saying, I'm not confident about the things that I've written this year. Can I submit something that I really love from 10th grade and rework it? That's absolutely fine. If you want, do that to give yourself the best possible chance of getting in. And then we'll look at your transcript. We'll look at your grades through the end of 11th grade. I do also get a lot of questions from students who are applying for the July 10th deadline, and they'll submit their application and say, my grades aren't going to be available till the 15th. That's absolutely okay. You can just send us an email with your grades and we'll add it to your application. And we're also going to be test optional. So that includes the SAT and the ACT, but also the subject test, IB, and AP test scores. You don't have to submit them if you're not comfortable with your scores. I know they're going to come out kind of later in July. So if you want to submit your application for the July deadline and they're not going to be available, then don't stress about it at all. And then I'll also say that WOW for Williams is open to students who are in the US and Puerto Rico, as well as students who are undocumented and documented. And we do consider those students domestic in our pool for both admission and financial aid purposes. And so, yes, definitely for students in Puerto Rico as well. I know I saw a question about that. And then the last thing I do want to say is that if you have other questions, definitely feel free to email me. You can email me at ceo3@williams.edu, but also at the WOW inbox. I manage the WOW inbox, so it doesn't really matter which one you email. It's still going to be me who answers you. So definitely feel free to get in contact if you need any additional clarity after tonight. So with that, I do want to say thank you all for your time, and I will pass it back to Winnie.
Yes, what an eventful last 45 minutes this has been. So much information has been presented to each of you. And one of the things that I want to address right now, for those of you who are chiming in or tuning in, however you are tuning in, I just want you to take a moment to realize that you can access the Q&A, and you should look at the Q&A because many of you have asked incredible questions, and our admissions leaders have done an impeccable job answering all of your questions. So for those of you who don't have access to the Q&A, I'm going to re-ask some of these questions aloud and have our admissions representatives answer them. So one of the first questions that I want us to tackle is thinking about, one, how this is a mini application process for students in and of itself, maybe before you even apply to these colleges. So if a student applies to your flying program and doesn't get accepted, does this decrease or increase their chances, or the other way around, right? If a student gets accepted into a fly-in program, participates, does it increase or change the way that the acceptance process might look for that student? Any one of you are welcome to respond.
Sure, so I can hop on here. So let me start with the first part. If you are not admitted to any pre-college program, whether it's a fly-in program, a different summer program, anything like that, it never hurts your chances. We're not looking to penalize students in the application process just because we weren't able to take them for a different program. Keep in mind, these colleges are all really, really selective. That goes for more than just admission to the institution. That goes for all of these fly-in programs and other pre-college programs as well, right? And similar to the application process, a lot of the times when we aren't able to admit you, it's not because we don't want to, it's just because we lack the space, right? So no, we will never penalize you for not being admitted to the programs. On the other end of the spectrum, if you are admitted to the program, there's never a guarantee that we're going to take students who participated in fly-in programs. There's not a guarantee of admission later on. That being said, it's a really great chance for you to get to know us a little bit more, and vice versa, right? A lot of times at the end of these fly-in programs, having 3 days with a student is wonderful because we get to learn all about you. We get to know you on a much deeper, more personal level than we may otherwise have had the opportunity to do through just a virtual application to our college, right? As great of a job as you do telling us about yourselves and your applications, it's different, right? When we get to interact with you and hear all about, what might make you a good fit for our schools, right? So again, there's not a guarantee, but we are eager to get to learn more about you, which could certainly, right, help in the process, one that is holistic by design.
Thanks, Remy. The next question that I want us to talk a little bit about is, many of you have asked questions about engagement within the fly-in programs in terms of when do you interact with professors, etc. We also need to recognize that some of these programs might be in a virtual space. So ultimately, when you are participating in a fly-in program, our colleges here are trying to make sure that you're able to assess yourself if this college is going to be a good academic fit for you, a good social fit for you. So it does require a lot of energy or association from you to also be involved to make sure you're able to answer those questions independently. So this is why these fly-in programs are really great. So when students are coming to your fly-in programs or participating, can you reiterate some of the tips or things that they should be preparing for when they and should they participate in any of your fly-in programs?
I can get us started. I think Remy just now, gave great tips on the things that you should take advantage of or the things that you should prepare in advance to our flying programs. But just to reiterate some of those, do a little bit of research before you go, right? Get to know this school. What is special about this place, right? What are some of the offices that you want to talk to that you think that you'll utilize or that you'll explore, right? Some of the academic interests they already have, and you're excited to talk about maybe some of those professors, right? So we of course will put those connections for you. That's what we do, right? So we'll try to find the folks who are really going to give you a sense of what life is like for you specifically at one of our schools. But again, keep in mind, right? Folks are busy, right? These are relatively short windows during our program. So try to reach out ahead of time. Try to reach out to some of us ahead of time, telling us, hey, I would really like to do this or that, or talk to so-and-so during the time here. And I would just say, try to talk to current students as much as you can, right? All of us do a great job of facilitating those connections, right? Whether that's virtual or whether that's in person. Try to talk to people who might share your experiences, some of your identities, some of your backgrounds, right? So you can really get a sense of what life is like for a student like myself, right? Do they enjoy it, right? What are some of the challenges? What are they really excited to tell me about, right? What is great about life here? So try to ask as many questions as you can, right? Again, same tips for you, if you go to a college fair, try to ask things that are more specific, right? All of us have psychology majors. All of us have study abroad programs, right? All of us can tell you that our majors are great, but what about you, right? What do you need? What kind of support would help you thrive? Try to focus on the things that are important to you and not just, anything that you can learn from our school.
Thank you. Anyone else like to add to that?
One of the tips that I have, especially for folks who will be participating in in-person programs, but also frankly virtually, is don't be shy. I think a lot of our fly-in students tend to come and then they like cluster up, and you get to know some really great friends that way. But take it on yourself and just chat up people in dining hall, or talk to people in our quads, or talk to people in our classrooms. If you visit one of our classes, show up a couple minutes early or stay a couple minutes late to talk to the professors. If you're interacting with admissions people while we're at the airport or wherever else and we don't look too frazzled, ask us questions. I think that students tend to want to sort of stay in their shell and maybe meet some other flying participants, but not necessarily interact with as much of the campus as they can. But just know that all of us really pride ourselves on our students being friendly and curious and wonderful, and all of them want cool classmates to come in the next year. And so you'll be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't want to talk about their school. So we really encourage you to spend as much time as you can putting yourself sort of out there and having those conversations. And figuring out what that is like. Virtually, we've had students who have reached out via our Ask a Student pages or on our individual Instagram pages to talk to current students. Most of us, if not all of us, have ways for you to get in touch with current students right now. And just because you're virtual, that isn't a reason to not get in touch with students who are living this day to day. So take a step outside, make sure that you're meeting current students, because they're going to give you a way better version of what our campuses feel like than what we're telling you now.
Thank you. The next question that I have is going to be maybe a twofold, but I think it's a really relevant question to ask for our students to really know the impact in which a counselor recommendation or any recommendation that is provided for you on a fly-in application, why that is important. So for our admissions leaders, could you describe to our students or counselors that are listening in, what is extremely valuable for you to know as a person reviewing these applications, and how can that really benefit a student's application by having someone who writes on behalf of them?
Yeah, I can jump in here because Amherst is one of the institutions that does require a letter of recommendation for our fly-in program. And I think it's really important as you're thinking about filling out these applications, thinking about these different institutions that offer programs like this, the time investment that you're going to put in, perhaps writing essays, getting a hold of your transcripts, keeping track of all of this stuff. Really what's important to know is that you're putting all of that information out there. And those of us who are reviewing those applications are getting great information about who you are and the reflection that you've done about your own self and the impact that you've made on your community, maybe through your high school or a workplace or in your family environment. But what we're really looking for from a letter of recommendation is just a different perspective about, again, how you've made an impact on a place. Because that person can tell us a little bit more, maybe that you don't know, maybe things that you don't necessarily know about yourself. I think it's really important as you go through these application processes to think of them as exercises in self-reflection and self-knowledge, and thinking about what am I going to bring to a campus community when I go to college. But also for those who are out there who are counselors or potential recommenders, what we're looking for from you is to tell us, how has this person impacted your community right now? Because that helps us to understand and to really get a sense of how that student might positively impact our campus community when they arrive, not only as a fly-in participant, but potentially as a student for 4 years, doing their bachelor's degrees on our college campuses.
Thank you to all of you who have joined us today for the Six Colleges Fly-In Program webinar. I think it has been such an incredible event in which you have learned a lot, right? And a great way for you to interact with our colleges is by being involved in their fly-in program. A lot of you have asked, how many can I do? How many can I apply to? I just want you to, I want to encourage you to at least try one, right? Give that opportunity to interact with a college and one of these colleges to start, but it's a great way for you to demonstrate that interest, or at least connect with the community that you might not have experienced before. So I am really appreciative to our six colleges for taking time out of their day to present to you. They've done an incredible job. If you have any questions for them, you are more than welcome to reach out to them Always remember to check out the Six Colleges website. They are constantly putting out content for you, inviting you to participate in webinar events. We are so thankful that you are all here, thankful to the admissions leaders, and thank you so much for letting me moderate for you this evening. Thank you all for being here, and we hope that you have a great day.